Welcome to Trigger Warning with your host, Chris Brumbles. Are you tired of the professional liars of fake news and far-left radicals? Are you ready for truth and common sense? The insanity and divisiveness of political correctness and identity politics have no place here. So welcome to Trigger Warning, where free speech is free speech, not racism. There are no participation trophies, so if your mind is weak, grab your binky, head to your safe space. Consider this your trigger warning.
Good afternoon, Columbia County, and welcome to Trigger Warning, where we embrace the truth and common sense and we reject political correctness. I've said it several times before, but from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank everyone in Columbia County, and especially the Columbia County Republican Party, Moms for Medical Freedom, and the patriots in our county who sacrificed their time and comfort in helping gather signatures for the Second Amendment Sanctuary Ordinance, in record time, I might add. Thank them for getting it on the ballot and making sure that it passed. The tenacity, the relentlessness, the volunteerism, and the patriotism that you have responded with against an all-out attack on our founding principles, our county, and our state by Ameriphobe Marxists and their Marxist-enabling, oath-breaking elected employees. You know, George Washington said that what separates America from other countries is that we would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. And Columbia County has stood strong and refused to be swayed by political correctness and remain resolute against outright treason coming out of Salem. The Columbia County Republican Party has grown into the best, most influential, hardworking group in the state, bar none. And they have shown the rest of the state that the Democrat machine can be beat with a heartfelt, never-surrender attitude. I am not a Republican, but am proud to call myself a friend of the group here. And I know that we will accomplish much more working together with other groups that love our country in the future. The election and the passing of the say-so is not the end of something, but a new beginning for our county. With the say-so, we have sent a huge message to the arrogant supermajority in Salem, and we have given hope to many people. What we have done in this county is a part of history and will always be part of it forever. Please know this. I have been on the phone with a couple of friends that have had conference calls with the president's team, and they are more than confident that the president will be sworn in on January 20th, 2021 for a second term. There's a ton of evidence of fraud and other illegal activity attached to this election that will not only show that President Trump won his bid for re-election, but won it handily. I ask that you turn off your TVs, radios, and even computers if you can for a couple weeks, or at least ignore them, and do not let all the propaganda stress you out and get you depressed, as the information that the lamestream is repeating is no more reliable than the lying pre-election polls that they spewed to discourage voter turnout. And this misleading information is meant to wear you out mentally and steal your hope. We need to remember that we are the righteous in this battle against evil, that God is on our side, and that when He stands with us, no one can stand against us. I do believe that we will have divine intervention on our behalf, and no matter what happens, we will not let the Marxists that are trying to destroy our country prevail. Thank you, the liberty-loving patriots in this county, for making it a safer place for my grandchildren and yours. Thank you for remembering that you are Americans. Now, Crazy Kate Brownstein has gotten up on her high horse again and gotten uppity. It's amazing how her attitude changes once an election is over. Crazy Stain has decided to violate the Constitution again and close the state down for 14 days. Again. It obviously did no good the first time, but like the Democrat policies that do not work, like all of them that don't work, she has decided to double down on destruction and insanity. Now Crazy Stain thinks she can control what goes on inside your house and outside. Seriously? Telling people how many they can have in their home and trying to enforce mask mandates outside? Good luck with that. I say to Crazy Stain, just do everyone a favor and go jump off a cliff. By the way, Catherine, I'm not asking. I'm telling you to. There's nothing medical or scientific about cases. You can carry coronavirus along with thousands of other viruses that you carry in your body every day and not be infected. That's why they are using cases to determine shutdowns. It is to enslave the people with the politically motivated, media-driven scamdemic. Using the standard of cases, they can keep the economy and the middle class dying, this insanity going on forever. But will we allow it? Has the majority of us really forgotten that we are Americans and that all this baloney that she is pulling is unconstitutional? Not to mention how immoral and stifling it is. Hasn't there been enough suicides? Hasn't there been enough people who lost their businesses and foregone medical procedures over this idiocy? This is fascism, plain and simple, and it is un-American. We are not honoring the hundreds of thousands of veterans that have died so that we could remain free. It's time to stand up together, all businesses, all churches, all the people, regardless of which side of the aisle that you are on, and say enough. We do not elect kings, and you may not infringe on our rights. We loan power to the government, and we can take it away. They are using a virus to instill fear and obtain more power, powers that they don't have a right to. This is leading to an excuse for forced vaccinations so that the pharmaceutical companies will pad Crazy Stain's coffers. She does not care about you or me or little children. She wants control. I have not and will not comply with these ridiculous mandates. I will fight it wherever I go. I am an American. I am a free man. And by the way, king of my own castle. Kate Brown doesn't get to tell me who can go in and not go in my house. Let's just see if Crazy Stain will enforce these Hitler-esque mandates on her terrorist friends BLM and Antifa. We better wake up, America. What's being done right now in Oregon is a mirror image of what happened in Nazi Germany. It's time for the legislature to step up and protect the rights of the individual. That is the only reason we created government in the first place. If they don't, Crazy Kate and her cronies will start the worst civil war the world has ever seen. People who have lived with liberty will not give it up, nor should they. Today's guest knows all too well the dangers America faces from the enemies within our borders. In fact, he wrote a book about it called The Enemies Within, and a movie of the same name. Trevor Loudon has been an activist for quite a few years, now warning America of the communist threat to destroy Western civilization. He is an author, filmmaker, and public speaker from Christchurch, New Zealand. For more than 30 years, he has researched radical left Marxist and terrorist movements and their covert influence on mainstream politics. Trevor Loudon's thesis is that what is commonly regarded as mainstream political policy is in fact driven and guided by hidden subversive elements. The Democrat Party's consistent defunding of the U.S. military, Obozo Care, the Iran nuclear deal, normalization of relations with Cuba, Islamic refugee resettlement, $15 minimum wage, fracking bans, pipeline shutdowns, and the push for amnesty for illegal invaders are all consistent with far-left and Islamic agendas. Trevor Loudon believes that these forces must be exposed and countered, as America's continued role as a bastion of freedom is pivotal for the future of Western civilization. Trevor has also created a series of mini documentaries that are free to the public. They are America Under Siege, Civil War 2017, America Under Siege, Soviet Islam, America Under Siege, Antifa. He discovered the long-hidden relationship between Obozo and the Hawaiian Communist Party member Frank Marshall Davis. He researched Obozo's connection to New York and Chicago Marxist movements and published his findings online. In 2009, Trevor exposed the communist roots of Obozo's green jobs czar, Van Jones, which eventually led to Van Jones' resignation from the White House. Loudon has interviewed many people from both sides of the struggle over the years, from former Western intelligence offices to government undercover operatives inside the communist movement, to former KGB officers. We have only touched on the many accolades of Trevor Loudon, but I think you will understand that this man knows what he's talking about. Please join me when we come back from the break with Trevor Loudon.
Hello, all you triglets out there listening to Trigger Warning. This is where we reject political correctness and left-wing insanity, but instead we embrace truth and common sense. You know, there is only one gun group in Oregon that will not compromise on your rights, and that is Oregon Firearms Federation. With all the trickery and evil bills that come from the supermajority in Salem, you need a friend who will keep you informed of these nefarious plans to plunder your rights. If you have not done so, don't delay. Go to OregonFirearms.org and sign up for the free alerts. It will cost you nothing, and you will get the truth on what's going on in Salem. There is absolutely no common sense in giving up your rights, so sign up for our email alerts, and if you want to donate, we won't complain, and it will be put to good use. Oregon Firearms Federation, the only no-compromise gun group in the state of Oregon, at OregonFirearms.org. Sign up today. Northwest Observer, another great news source that tells it like it is. Give it a try. I'm sure you will be impressed. It's time that we have truth in the news. So go to Northwest Observer and give Redoubt News a shot, and you have nothing to lose and only facts to gain. Now, back to Trigger Warning, where we reject political correctness and left-wing nut job policies, and we embrace truth and common sense. With your host, Chris Brumbles.
Welcome back, Columbia County. Today we have the great man, Trevor Loudon, on the show. Trevor, it is an honor to have you here on the show today, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, sir.
Well, look, it's a pleasure to be on, and it's not hard to get me to talk to people in Oregon.
Yeah. Do you feel for us?
I do. I spent a lot of time there. It's a wonderful state. It reminds me so much of New Zealand, too, I have to say.
Oh, really? Well, can you tell the folks in Columbia County just a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind?
Yeah, look, I'm from New Zealand, but I live in the United States, mainly in Florida. My specialty is the radical left, you know, the Marxist, communist, socialist, and their influence on the mainstream government. So I was the first guy to expose Barack Obama's ties to the Hawaiian communist Frank Marshall Davis. Glenn Beck used to use a lot of my stuff on his chalkboards. And I've made about 3 or 4 movies, written several books, all about the unfolding Marxist takeover of the Democratic Party and consequently the United States.
Yeah, so last week I had John Guandolo from Understanding the Threat on the show. So this show will continue to educate the public, I hope. Have you ever worked with UTT?
Oh, look, I've worked with John many times. Yeah, I know John well. He has, you know, traditionally focused more on the Islamic side of the danger, but they overlap. We're good friends.
Good. Yeah, he's a pretty good guy. So, what compelled you to get out to educate the people about the Marxist threat invading America specifically? There must have been a moment where you felt that you just had to do this.
Well, look, in my own country, New Zealand, we had a lot of Marxist influence there, and they were so powerful in the 1980s that they passed legislation through our parliament banning nuclear warships from our harbours, and that destroyed our military alliance with the United States. They were that powerful. And so I started, well, put it this way, I spent a lot of time interviewing a man who had infiltrated the New Zealand Communist Party for our security services. So he was a government spy inside the communist movement. And he went to Moscow. He trained in Moscow at the height of the Cold War. And what he was taught there was that basically Moscow and Beijing and Havana have the power to influence mainstream political parties in the West. They can influence Democratic Party policy formation. They can influence who is chosen as a presidential candidate or a Senate candidate. This is all done from enemy nations. So I did a lot of research. I started to write books. I uncovered the ties between Frank Marshall Davis and Barack Obama. And I decided, well, you know, look, I could see how badly America was infiltrated. And I knew that if America went down, so would every Western country. You know, I come from a country that was saved by American troops in the battles of Guadalcanal and the Coral Sea and Midway from invasion by the Japanese. I knew, and every Westerner knows that if America goes down, we're all done.
I agree.
And so, if we want to have live in a free world, we've got to try and help turn America around.
I agree. How involved do you think that China is in these riots we've been having destroying our country?
Look, it's completely a Chinese operation. I've done movies on this. I've done a lot of research. That Black Lives Matter. The riots were started by two pro-Chinese communist groups. The Freedom Road Socialist Organization, which started the riots in Minneapolis. They burnt Minneapolis. They burnt Kenosha, Washington, Salt Lake City, Utah, Dallas, Houston, New York, and other places. And the other group, Liberation Road, another pro-Chinese Communist Party, is the group behind Black Lives Matter. They control Black Lives Matter, and that is run out of the Chinese consulate in San Francisco through a Chinese front group in that city called the Chinese Progressive Association. So you'll find that most of the leaders of Black Lives Matter are connected to the Chinese Progressive Association, which is a front for Communist China.
Oh, man. Oh. So
you basically had... That was an act of war by China. China was burning your cities, deliberately so.
Oh, I agree with it. I agree with that. So they think that about 3,000 Russians took over, turned it into communism back in the day. How many communists do you think we have in America today?
Well, look, there's about 25 American communist parties of various, sizes.
25?
But the three main, 25.
Lord.
But the three main ones are Communist Party USA, which is now pro-China, Liberation Road, which is pro-China, Democratic Socialists of America, which is very heavily tied into other communist groups. And they are the three groups that have infiltrated the Democratic Party the most heavily. So you would say they would have a combined force of about 100,000 people.
Good Lord.
Then there'd be at least another 100,000 in the smaller communist groups, or people under their control. They control the labor movements. They effectively control the Democratic Party. A lot of churches they've got inside, and they've got influence way beyond their numbers. And you're quite right. Lenin took over Russia with 2,000 to 3,000 Bolsheviks.
Right.
Well, there's way more than that in America. I say in my books and my movies, you've got about 100 members of the U.S. Congress and 20 members of the U.S. Senate, including both of the Oregon senators, Wyden and Merkley, who are so enmeshed in communist groups, radical groups, etc., they couldn't pass an FBI background check to drive a school bus. But there are no background checks in Congress or the Senate, and that's how you've got people like Blumenauer and DeFazio and Wyden and Merkley basically working for the other team against your country within your own government.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and Kamala Harris. I actually studied natural born citizen for actually about 60 days, and I found the definitions finally from the day that the contract was written, the Constitution. Kamala Harris is not even a citizen, let alone a natural born citizen, and and neither was Obozo. I call him Obozo. Obama was not a natural born citizen, and so now they're making it. There was a reason our founders wanted a natural born citizen, and it's kind of scary that they're just ignoring the Constitution now.
Well, yeah, look. The interesting thing is Kamala Harris and Barack Obama came out of the same communist group.
Right.
The same communists who elected Obama are the same people behind Kamala Harris. I was saying 3 years ago that Kamala Harris was going to be the presidential candidate, and I lost a lot of steak dinners.
Oh, wow.
When she bowed out. But I'm going back to collect them now because she is really the candidate. You know, Joe Biden's just a placeholder. And, you know, her parents were Marxists. They were involved in a Black Panther type group, a group that actually became the Black Panther Party. Her father was an affirmative action Marxist at Stanford University. They didn't have enough Marxists in the economics department, so they recruited him to fill the balance. And she was heavily involved with Willie Brown, a major communist in the Bay Area. She's got multiple communist connections. Her husband's company works for the Chinese Communist Party. And she was elected to the DA position in San Francisco, California Attorney General, U.S. Senate, by a very rich Bolshevik Marxist called Stephen Phillips. He was the man who got Obama ahead of Hillary Clinton. He was the man who elected Cory Booker to the U.S. Senate. He was the man who almost elected Stacey Abrams to the governorship of Georgia and almost elected Andrew Gillum, another Marxist, to the governorship of Florida. So this man, Steve Phillips, a former member of the League of Revolutionary Struggle, a pro-Chinese communist group, gave us Kamala Harris. And she is, as Donald Trump said recently, he said that if Joe Biden is elected, he will sell this country to communist China. And Biden couldn't have picked a better running mate to help him do that than Kamala Harris.
Well, the good news is, I know that the lamestream media is, you know, they pronounced Biden the winner, but he is not the winner. In fact, President Trump is going to win this thing. President Trump has found 2.7 million votes that have been switched from Biden from him to Biden, and I think this is going to get settled in Congress. And there's 37 GOP states, so I'm hoping. I'm thinking Trump's going to win this. My friends have been in touch with the Trump team, and they have no doubt that he's going to win a second term. And I think it would be devastating for this country if Biden. I've already saw a preview of his cabinet: Van Jones, Bernie Sanders. I mean, it's just a list of communists.
well, it is exactly a list of communists.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Van Jones was in contention, but that doesn't surprise me. But education, all of the main portfolios would be run by communists. They're even looking at having Pete Buttigieg, who is a complete Marxist, as Secretary of Defense. See, the big thing is this. Biden made his whole career working for a group called the Council for a Livable World, a group set up by a Soviet spy to gut the U.S. military. That's what he did. His whole career was about gutting the military to the advantage of the Soviet Union, Russia, and China. If he is elected, he will completely alter the balance of power in the world. He will basically make China the dominant power in the world by gutting the U.S. military. You know, right now, India is freaking out because they're facing off against China, and they know that only President Trump can stop the Communist Party of China.
Right.
Japan's freaking out. The Philippines are freaking out. Australia's freaking out. Europe's freaking out because everybody knows that if Biden is the president, they will all have to make their peace with China because no one will stand against Communist China. That's how serious this is.
Oh, yeah. It's, you know, so have you been given audiences in front of U.S. officials? I mean, what you got to say and what in all your knowledge is very important, and I was just wondering if you've got an audience from them.
Well, not so much audiences, but like my film Enemies Within, which details the infiltration of Congress and the Senate. It was seen on Amazon Prime 3 million times until they took it down just before the election. But I know many congressmen and senators and high-ranking officials have viewed that movie. I know that I write for the Epoch Times. I know that many of my articles have been referenced and passed around senior government officials. I do know that they know what I'm doing, that there is some awareness of my work, but I don't go and sit down in front of these people and debrief them or anything like that. But I do know there is an influence there.
Well, I appreciate you, all this information you're giving us. We're going to have to take a break, though. We'll be right back with Trevor Loudon in about 3 minutes.
Hello, all you triglets out there listening to Trigger Warning. This is where we reject political correctness and left-wing insanity, but instead, we embrace truth and common sense. You know, there is only one gun group in Oregon that will not compromise on your rights, and that is Oregon Firearms Federation. With all the trickery and evil bills that come from the supermajority in Salem, you need a friend who will keep you informed of these nefarious plans to plunder your rights. If you have not done so, don't delay. Go to OregonFirearms.org and sign up for the free alerts. It will cost you nothing, and you will get the truth on what's going on in Salem. There is absolutely no common sense in giving up your rights, so sign up for our email alerts, and if you want to donate, we won't complain, and it will be put to good use. Oregon Firearms Federation, the only no-compromise gun group in the state of Oregon, at OregonFirearms.org. Sign up today. Northwest Observer, another great news source that tells it like it is. Give it a try. I'm sure you will be impressed. It's time that we have truth in the news. So go to Northwest Observer and give Redoubt News a shot, and you have nothing to lose and only facts to gain. Now, back to Trigger Warning, where we reject political correctness and left-wing nut job policies, and we embrace truth and common sense. With your host, Chris Brumbles.
Welcome back, Columbia County. We are with our honored guest, Trevor Loudon. And Trevor, we were talking a little bit about some of the politicians in Congress. Do you know how many people in Congress are actually communists or part of the communist parties?
Well, this is what I would say. There's about 100 members of Congress and about 20 members of the Senate have strong connections to either the Communist Party USA or Democratic Socialists of America,
same thing,
or other similar radical organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So only a few of them are card-carrying Marxists, like Jan Schakowsky and Danny Davis, and obviously Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib. They're card-carrying Marxists, but there's a lot of others who are supporters or sympathizers.
Oh man, is there a place anybody can go find a list? I thought. Well, let me back up. Do you know Rob Taylor? I think you do. I mean, he knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah, I was on with him yesterday.
Yeah, well, he's a friend of mine. We're doing the Second Amendment sanctuary all over the Oregon together, and he thought there might have been a list somewhere where people could go look that up. Is there a list?
Yeah. You look up Trevor Loudon's list of 65 Marxists in Congress.
Oh, okay.
Trevor Loudon's list of 65, and
okay.
Google that, it'll come up. There's also my website, KeyWiki, KeyWiki.org, and that will bring you up files on Jeff Merkley, on Ron Wyden, on Blumenauer, on Pete DeFazio, etc.
Right.
So you can research all their backgrounds online. But like for instance, the head of the Homeland Security Committee in Congress, that's Benny Thompson. Mm-hmm. In 2000, he went to Cuba, had meetings with Fidel Castro, and arranged for hundreds of young communists from America to have free medical training in Cuba. Now, those young communists are all over the country. Uh-huh. And this guy, Benny Thompson, is the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. He should be being investigated by the Homeland Security Committee for what he's done.
Oh, Lord. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, it does make sense. I've studied this stuff, so I want to turn just for a minute, if we could, to Oregon. What do you got on the ORP, and specifically Bill Courier and Solomon Yu?
Well, look, I'll just talk a little bit about Solomon Yu. You know, he is a key operative in the Oregon Republican Party. Now, if you just look at his background, from China, went to Alaska, his whole story and his backstory is very, very problematic. You know, his very sketchy details on how he makes his money. But the thing is, he's had, in my opinion, he's quite a malign influence on the Oregon GOP. And the guy serves, or did serve, on the Republican National Committee. So this is a guy that I would see would struggle to pass any form of background check. I do not think if he applied for a job in the post office he would pass. But he's serving at the top levels of the Oregon Republican Party and in the RNC. And, you know, his connections to China alone and the sketchy backstory he gives should disqualify him for either of those positions.
I agree.
And, you know, and why he's allowed to remain in those positions, I don't know. Because he is not a good influence, that's for sure. And, you know, but he runs a little kingdom inside the ORP, and he's hard to get rid of. But I think a major effort should be undertaken to get him out of there.
Yeah, see, my wife is the chair of the Republican Party in this county. I'm not a Republican, but I work with them. George Bush messed that up for me when he passed the Unpatriot Act, and so I will never be a Republican or a Democrat. But so they just did an election not too long ago, and there was a lot of people not happy with their election with Solomon Yu because several people they did it because of the scamdemic going on. They did it over the internet. It took them like almost, I think it was a whole day to get back to him to figure out who won, and there were several people whose elections or votes didn't count. So I don't know, and he didn't win by that much. I can't remember what the number was, but I'm thinking there might have been some election fraud going on there. So
well, who knows? I don't know. I can't comment, but all I know is I read the guy's background, I look at his CV, and numerous. As someone who's studied, you know, the intelligence field for a long time, a whole bunch of alarm bells go off when you read his CV. And the actions that he's taken in the ORP have not been helpful, in my opinion. And so, you know, but this is the thing. Republican Party members have got to be very tough. They've got to demand paper ballots. They've got to demand election integrity. And they should be demanding these things anyway. You know, not just allowing the sort of party elite to steamroll everything through. But, you know, it's as you say, you're not a Republican, but you are clearly a constitutionalist and a patriot.
Right.
And the Republican Party right now is about the only thing standing between us and Democratic Party communism.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, we've all got to be standing together in the constitutional movement to stop the Democrats completely taking over.
Right.
You know, you've seen what the Democrats have done to Southern Oregon. You've seen the mess they're making in Portland.
Yep.
You know, why would we give these people power over the whole country forever? And just remember, folks, if they get elected again, one of the first things they're going to do is what Hillary Clinton promised to do within 100 days of taking office. That is to legalize and give citizenship and voting rights to every single illegal immigrant in the country. Now, that's 22 million people, according to Massachusetts Institute of Technology. That's 17 or 18 million new Democrats overnight. If they succeed in that, there will never be any Republican or constitutionalist president ever again. You will have a one-party state. You know, Donald Trump saved us from a one-party state, and we've got to make sure he gets back to save us again from the next one-party state.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that he'll get rid of the UN. That is a big deal. We got to get rid of the UN. I did not know until I talked to John that the UN is represented by all 57 states of Islam, and they are the #1 voting bloc. That is scary.
Well, Well, that's exactly right. Look, the UN has always been controlled by America's enemies, whether the communists, the Chinese, or the Islamist bloc. You know, there's no reason why the United States should be paying 25% of the budget for an organization that works to destroy us. And, you know, like Trump already pulled America out of 2 UN bodies. And I think that's another great reason to make sure President Trump is re-elected, because I believe with enough pressure, he will entirely pull America out of the UN, period. And that would be a fantastic thing for the world. To see that body consigned to the dust heap of history would be a great boon.
Yeah. Well, Biden's already said the first thing he's going to do is, of course, make all these illegal invaders legal. And the second thing he was going to do is put us back into that Agenda 30, Agenda 21, Agenda 30 climate thing. It's so we. Go ahead.
And the Great Reset. Look, he would be an absolute disaster. He will gut the U.S. military. He will destroy American sovereignty, and all we're relying on is the Republican Party holding the Senate to stop him. Well, that's a very tenuous thing, and by no means guaranteed. We cannot allow it to get to that stage. We've got to make sure Trump maintains his presidency.
So you agree the United States should get out of the UN for sure?
Oh, look, absolutely, absolutely. Look, the UN was set up by communists like Al Jahis. It always belonged to the Soviets and the Chinese and the enemies of America. It's never been anything positive towards this country. It's only done damage to this country, and America pays either 20 or 25% of its running costs. You know, how suicidal is that? You know, why would America ever want to belong to such a corrupt organization?
Right. Well, I think we know that. The deep state, they're pretty corrupt.
Well, the deep state is all about the UN. The deep state, you've got to understand, is communist. It's essentially communist. People like Comey had communist backgrounds. Brennan has a communist background. Nellie Orr has a communist background. All these people in the anti-Trump conspiracy, many of them had communist backgrounds.
Right.
And ultimately, the communists and the United Nations are pretty much one and the same. The United Nations is just a wing of the world communist movement. And why would you support that? Why would you pay for that?
I don't know. I think that crazy Kate Brown, I call her, or Brownstein, is a postmodern neo-Marxist communist, in my opinion, and Oregon just keeps electing her. Actually, she was appointed at first, but she did win re-election, and no matter what, I don't know if you've heard about so she came out the other day and decided she was going to shut down our state illegally again for 14 days. And she said that you can only have 6 people in your house. I don't know how she thinks she can control that. And she said, I'm not asking, I'm telling you. So these people they're getting bold now. This is
the most exciting time of their lives. You know, all communists, all socialists like her wake up in the morning. They wake up thinking, how am I going to control everybody else today? This is my whole life, controlling other people. And so the COVID, which was deliberately spread by the Chinese as a military exercise to destroy the U.S. economy, to destroy President Trump, and to destroy the U.S. military budget. Those were the 3 goals of the COVID, and they've achieved one of them and could achieve the other 2 possibly. You know, that was all an act of war by China, but the Democrats are buying into it because they know the worse the economy is, the harder it is for Trump. And now that as soon as if they do beat Trump, and God forbid that happens, you will see them start to ease off restrictions because there'll be no purpose in it anymore. Because it was only designed to destroy the president. Nothing to do with public health.
Yeah, I think they're going to start the biggest civil war. I mean, I don't think it's going to be 4 years. I think it's going to be 40 years. But I think they're going to start a civil war here. I travel around a lot to Washington, Idaho, Oregon, and people are fed up. So.
Yeah, well, look, I just hope that doesn't happen. I cannot fully understand why people... Look, this is my view.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people want to just get up and rise up and just take things into their own hands. How long do you think it would be if we got into a civil war in America, which is exactly what the Chinese are trying to provoke us into? How long do you think it would be before the Democrats called their Chinese and Russian and Iranian friends onto American soil to help them out?
Yeah, it could be, but we got the largest standing army here in the world with the people.
Yeah, but that doesn't match nukes. Russia's got 20,000 nukes. What are you going to do against that? This is not going to be a war fought on American soil, just by Americans against Americans. If we get into a civil war here, and I can understand why people are tempted by it, but look, we got to solve this politically, because if we get in a civil war, we're going to be fighting Russia and China on our own soil, and that will not be pretty.
Right. Well, we got to take a break right now. We're with we're talking to Trevor Loudon. We'll be right back in about a couple minutes.
Hello, all you triglets out there listening to Trigger Warning. This is where we reject political correctness and left-wing insanity, but instead, we embrace truth and common sense. You know, there is only one gun group in Oregon that will not compromise on your rights, and that is Oregon Firearms Federation. With all the trickery and evil bills that come from the supermajority in Salem, you need a friend who will keep you informed of these nefarious plans to plunder your rights. If you have not done so, don't delay. Go to OregonFirearms.org and sign up for the free alerts. It will cost you nothing, and you will get the truth on what's going on in Salem. There is absolutely no common sense in giving up your rights, so sign up for our email alerts, and if you want to donate, we won't complain, and it will be put to good use. Oregon Firearms Federation, the only no-compromise gun group in the state of Oregon, at OregonFirearms.org. Sign up today. Northwest Observer, another great news source that tells it like it is. Give it a try. I'm sure you will be impressed. It's time that we have truth in the news. So go to Northwest Observer and give Redoubt News a shot, and you have nothing to lose and only facts to gain. Now, back to Trigger Warning, where we reject political correctness and left-wing nut job policies, and we embrace truth and common sense. With your host, Chris Brumbles.
Welcome back, Columbia County. We are talking to Trevor Loudon about the enemies within this country. So, Trevor, you know, I was shocked to find out. I knew about the communist threat, but I didn't realize until I saw some video down in Austin, Texas, of thousands of people getting together, and half of them were communists. They had communist flags, and half of them had the Muslim Brotherhood flag. I didn't realize how they were working together to destroy this country. Any thoughts on that?
Well, we call it the red-green axis. And see, the communists want worldwide communism. The Muslims want a worldwide caliphate. Mm-hmm. And maybe they'll fight each other, down the track. But right now, they both understand the number one enemy, the number one thing standing in their way, is a free, independent United States of America.
Right.
So they are absolutely working together to bring this country down. You know, groups like CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, they work heavily with the communists in this country. Uh-huh. You know, you'll see this. The Party for Socialism, Liberation, all these communist groups are overlapping with the Islamist groups because they have a common enemy, and that is the United States. And, you know, if they beat us, they might fight each other over the spoils, but that's far too late for us. You know, we've got to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right, right. Well, I got to believe that, I believe that the media has done us such a disservice. If it wasn't for the media, I don't think these people could have gained near as much power as they have. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, the media in this country was penetrated after World War II. Mm-hmm. You know, the communists always knew that they had to get inside the American media to influence public opinion and influence elections and the direction of the country. So after World War II, they started training American journalists in the journalism colleges, and they were all taught advocacy journalism, which was invented by the Marxist journalism professor Curtis McDougall. And advocacy journalism means you don't report the news,
right.
You report the facts that shape history in the right direction. So most journalists believe that their mission is to lead Americans down the left-wing path, down the liberal path.
Oh, Lord.
And so that's what they do. And the big media corporations have bought into this. And so you really have, with the exception of outlets like yourself and One American News Network and Newsmax, you pretty much have a left-wing monopoly on the news in this country. And that's why we're in the state we're in today.
Yeah. Has your movie? Aren't you making a movie called "The Marxists within the Church"?
Yeah, well, we're making one, "Enemies Within the Church," and
Okay.
that's going to be released in theaters in March next year. It's going to be 2 parts. First part in March, first part in September, and that's going to shock people. That one will.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Has it been released yet? So it's going to be in March, if the theaters are open.
Well, that's right. Well, we're hoping there will be. But what has happened is there's been a very deep Marxist penetration of the churches going on since the 1920s.
Uh-huh.
But until recently, the evangelical churches and the Baptists were pretty uncorrupted. They weren't tainted by this socialism and Marxism. But that has been really changing over the last 5 years. The radical left, working through groups like the Gospel Coalition and others, is spreading social justice and critical race theory right into the evangelical churches now, right into even the Southern Baptists. So you're getting a massive shift to the left by the churches. You know, they're not preaching Christianity. They're preaching Marxism with a little bit of Christianity sprinkled on top. And this is going to alter the culture and the politics of the country if it's not corrected very, very soon.
Yeah, I do believe the churches have failed. Pastors have failed us too. So
Yeah,
right now, the pastors. I mean, there is no way that the government should be able to shut down churches at all.
Yeah, let's be a bit crude here, but they should be kicking up merry hell right now.
Right.
There's no constitutional, nothing in the Constitution that says that free speech can be curtailed in times of an epidemic. This is all completely bogus.
Right.
And you see the left are shutting down churches but letting casinos stay open. You know, they are coming after Christianity because
Yes.
Christianity is the main thing standing between them and a complete socialist takeover. But the problem is, so many pastors are either cowardly or they're complicit.
And all through history, that's what they do. When tyrants rise up, they always go after the churches first. But our founders put absolutely no emergency powers in the Constitution because they knew that if they did, everything would become an emergency, like we're seeing now.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even have the data to support them, so they're using Hitler's big lie now they're doing cases. Cases, there's no medical or scientific basis for cases because you can carry... From what I've studied, you carry around thousands of viruses with you all the time. That doesn't mean you have it. So
no, you're not exhibit. You're not actually sick. See, normally when you have an epidemic, you know, you quarantine the sick, and everybody else goes about their business. Mm-hmm. But we were told this time we couldn't do that because the World Health Organization said that there was evidence of asymptomatic transmission. Many people without symptoms were transmitting the disease. And we didn't have testing, so we had to shut everything down. Mm-hmm. Well, the World Health Organization, which Trump thankfully pulled this country out of, is led by Mr. Tedros of Ethiopia. And if you look at his CV, he was the leader of that country's Marxist-Leninist, Maoist, communist political party. He's completely in the pocket of China.
Right.
So President Trump was forced into the position of, if he didn't shut down, he was told we're going to have 2 million deaths by Christmas, and he knew he would get blamed for every dead grandmother between then and the election. But now he's realized what a scam this is. Mm-hmm. But Biden is going to keep the shutdown going, at least for a little while, because he's a Marxist. He loves China.
Right.
And if Trump gets reelected, he's going to end it, and the economy will recover. That's the choice Americans have before them.
Yeah, we got labor unions, media, politicians. I mean, we've got a lot against us, don't we?
We sure do, but we have the truth on our side, and these people are paper tigers. Mm-hmm. When we call their bluff, they fold, and we've got to call their bluff.
Right.
You know, right now, President Trump has all the law on his side. Mm-hmm. If you play poker, he's got 3 aces in his hand. The Democrats are playing with a pair of 2s, and they're trying to bluff us out so we will fold and give them the pot. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. So we got. Oh man, have you ever heard of a group called the Rural Organizing Project, ROP? They started out here in Columbia County, and they've been trying.
Yeah, I know them well. Yeah.
Yeah, they're Soros. I believe they're funded by Soros, and they have something like they claim they have 75 offshoots of their group. Is that true?
Well, what they are, they're probably funded by the Soros networks. What they are, they're related to Liberation Road, the pro-Chinese communist group that is behind Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And they're very, very heavily involved in voter registration. They work like Acorn did in the old days. You know, I'm just writing an article now how the Chinese have used a whole network of voter registration groups targeted in key states to win the election for China. Well, Rural Organizing Project is connected to those networks, the Liberation Road, pro-Chinese communist networks, and they operate all over rural Oregon, and they have some influence, and they should be exposed.
Yeah, my Rob Taylor kicked them out of Coos County. We're still working on it, but they're kind of hiding.
Yeah, they're a very insidious organization. They're basically a rural Acorn, and they prey upon the poor. They prey upon the minorities. They suck them into their community organizing. They get power at the local level. They scam a whole bunch of money off the government, and they're an insidious, Marxist-connected organization.
Yeah.
But they operate in little towns and little areas like you, like where you are.
Yeah. Well, Trevor, we're coming to the end here, and I want to thank you very much for being on this show. I'm honored. I truly am. I've been listening to you speak for several years now on YouTube videos and stuff. And would there be any? Would you like to put out your books or any other information websites that you'd like people to know?
Well, what I'd say is, look, if you want to know about your local politicians, go to Keywiki, KEYWIK.org. Type in the name in the search box of your local, your congressmen, senators, etc. I urge people to get my new book, White House Reds, which exposes all the leading Democrats who stood for the presidency and their communist connections, including Biden, including little sweet Amy Klobuchar, including Pete Buttigieg. So go to my website, trevorloudon.com, and please watch my movie, Enemies Within. You can get that off my website too. It's been seen by over 3 million people, and it will knock your socks off. It really will expose the absolute corruption and communism of the Democratic Party, and the Islamism as well.
Well, thank you, sir, for being on here, and I'm going to go home and order that movie. I've seen snippets of it, but I've never sat down and watched the whole movie.
Oh, look, you got to watch it. You absolutely got to promise me you'll watch it.
I definitely will. Okay, well,
sir.
That's going to wrap it up for this week's folks. I want to thank Trevor Loudon for being on the show. I hope you all learned a thing or two about the threat that is residing inside of our own borders. It's not a rumor. It's not a conspiracy theory. The threat is real. A lot of people in the world want this country to fail and to embrace a communist one-world government. They can't accomplish that without destroying our country and our Constitution. We are the beacon of liberty in the world. We need to remain vigilant and make sure we vet the people that we vote for. You can't trust the lamestream media, so you will have to educate yourselves if you want your children to grow up in liberty the way that you have. It is our duty to pass what our founders left to us on to them. And if we fail, there will be no more smiles ever. Join me in praying every day for our country and our county, and remember that it all starts here in our county. So let's keep Columbia County normal and sane, and I'll see you next week on Trigger Warning.
You've been listening to Trigger Warning with Chris Brumbles. You can email your comments to kohi.radio@gmail.com. And listen again next time for Trigger Warning with Chris Brumbles.